2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, and also your narrative for tonight, as we continue our themed discussions this month on local horror films. So today I am excited to discuss with y'all a horror found footage that was filmed in 2018 in and around the Green Bay area with Head Trauma Productions, which that production side of the company. He is John Pata, at least who is behind Head Trauma Productions. He's done some films, one of them called Deadweight, and during the Indiegogo campaign, he reached out to Adam, who is the Adam Krause, who is the director of this film, and basically they kind of madhoused this film into existence. But what's interesting about this film, before we go into our first impressions thing, is the marketing that they did for this film. They started a rumor online that there was this clown that was just bothering people just in and around the Green Bay area, and it ended up getting like some international news, like all over the world. Like there wasn't just one report; there was like multiple reports, and eventually it became a short film. And I was at the Milwaukee Twisted Dreams at its first screening, and it was very cool to see the development of what he could do. And then eventually it kind of followed the Indiegogo campaign, and it is what it came to be. So that being said, I will say what IMDb says about the film. An unidentified man in Green Bay, Wisconsin, has captured worldwide attention for roaming the streets dressed as a clown. Many write it off as a harmless prank. Others aren't so sure. When a group of friends cross paths with the clown everyone calls Gags, his true intentions are revealed. So, all things considered, Dustin, since you are my hometown bro from at least the Wisconsin area, well, not from Wisconsin, but you live in Wisconsin, so I figured I would ask you what your opinion or first view of this film was. Dustin, are you here? In any case, why don't we talk to Mo? Mo, why don't you tell me your opinions?
I mean, I didn't like it, dude. You know, it's there's just several levels about the movie that it just rubbed me the wrong way. A lot of it, I felt like, I feel like I'm a bad one to start, and it's gonna seem like I'm just trashing on it, but I'm not. You know, it's not that I didn't give it the old college try or whatever. It's just like parts of it almost felt too good to be a found footage movie. Like where there's like a bit with a cop. I'm sure we'll talk about that. It felt like a video game for a minute. The characters just bugged me. I felt like most of them were annoying, especially in the short film. Those people were fucking obnoxious, which I guess kind of fits the character of the type of people they were, I suppose. They seemed like club chicks and, you know, they're sort of douchey boyfriends or whatever. I did like how they had like kind of, because you guys every now and again there'll be a person with like that similar accent to that Minnesota accent, like the Bobby's World accent. I did enjoy several people in the movie, because you could hear that come through, especially the main girlfriend in the short film. I think she was in like news reports in the main movie. I don't know, it just didn't really do it for me, man. The whole clown thing, I've never found clowns creepy, so when that whole creepy clown craze was happening for a bit there, it was just kind of like, I don't understand what the big deal is. And that is kind of reflected by a couple of characters in the movie. I guess I did enjoy the clown like bursting balloons and making people sick and stuff. That was pretty gnarly. And the clown looked cool, so it does have like its positive points for me. But just overall, it wasn't as enjoyable of an experience for me.
Okay.
There's other found footage movies I'd jump to before ever revisiting this,
Okay, fair enough. Going over to you, Brandon, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you was this a first time watch for you?
Yes. Now I had remembered the creepy clown phase, and the scary clown thing never bothered me that much. My wife won't watch any movie with a scary clown in it. That's just how she is. Maybe I just didn't have enough scary clown exposure as a child. Now, having a person just dress up as a clown and just stare at you, that did creep me out a little bit. Back when it was going on, people doing stunts like that. So it was kind of cool to get to see that stuff as it was going, understand just understand where that was coming from. I enjoyed it overall. I kind of like where it was going. I enjoyed the found footage aspect of it, and just in general, I thought it was a fun movie. It was an entertaining watch, and I'm kind of glad to have it in the collection. It's just it's kind of cool to have something that is a regional thing from y'all's area. So it's kind of cool.
Okay. Going over to you, Jake. Jake, what was your experience of this film? Was this the first time watch for you?
Oh, it was definitely a first time watch. I don't even think I'd ever heard of the movie before you suggested it, to be honest. I do remember those reports. I don't vaguely, like, I don't know if I heard specifically the Wisconsin ones, but like, I think in reading up on this, I was reminded of some in the Carolinas. I think I remember hearing about those. There was some definitely some shenanigans going on related to that. And I'm actually, strangely enough, it looks like Mo and I are kind of trading off tonight. Like, I kind of didn't like the first movie, and I actually kind of do like this one, which surprised me. I'm going to be honest. I went into this thinking this is probably going to be one tedious-ass movie. And maybe because I set the bar so low, there was room for improvement and room to be surprised. I'm not going to say it was a great film. I don't think it was a great film, but for this type of film, sort of like a found footage, kind of horror, creep fest kind of thing, I thought it was effective. Strangely enough, one of my criticisms of Sleepaway Camp also applies here, but it had a different effect on me, and that was most of the characters here were assholes and douchebags as well, and I didn't care for very many of them at all, but for some reason, the only one who really got on my nerves, I guess the two, mainly the reporter. Well, I guess there were a couple that really did. The reporter was one of the worst, and so was the boyfriend that kept pushing his two friends further and further. And the cameraman for that podcast was kind of an asshole, too. But the guy who was the podcaster, Charles Wright, he was an asshole, but he was an entertaining.
He was a fun character.
Yeah. So there were different levels of it in this one. They weren't all. So I don't know. Overall, it was.
And the thing Before you go further, the thing that
Right.
you have to understand about this film is it is a first effort by the director.
Right.
So, other than the short film that he put out, which happened before this,
Right.
this is his first feature. So
Right.
that's also something that you have to bear in mind when.
Yeah, and it's not bad for a first feature, no doubt about it.
Right.
You could definitely do a lot worse.
Right.
But
that short film actually
yeah.
ties right in at the beginning too. So that's
Yeah, although the short film puzzled me a little bit because there were parts that were verbatim copied in the movie, but they clearly changed it up. And I thought it would have worked better if they had either gone with completely different scenes or copied it completely. And it seemed awkward to have that hybrid thing. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
That bald
But-
dude too that was in the short film and
Yeah.
in the beginning of this one seemed like he was annoyed with having to do it again. Like
Yeah.
the way he was reading his lines was very like, he was just kind of reading them out. It felt like
Right.
it's
But,
not Halloween, dickhead, or what. Like the second time around, it was just so little emotion in it.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good times.
Dustin, are you here with us? No.
Yeah, I've been here.
Okay, because I called on you before and there was no response. So
Oh.
my
Well then.
my Wisconsin contributory. What were your thoughts on this film?
Okay, so I was expecting like a slasher or something. So I was a little surprised by this. Like it's found footage, but done kind of a different way, like from multiple sources. And you're seeing it in it's not like found, it's like happening in real time. So I thought this was actually fairly inventive. So I liked it. I expected a lot more clown mayhem though.
I'm thinking that Adam is done with the film. I think eventually he'll come back to it later on down the road. I feel like this is
I feel
leading
like
up.
we'll get a Gags too.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to eventually get a Gags 2 if at all possible. I'm going to go over to Dane. Was this the first time watch for you?
Yes, it was, and you may have noticed that I changed my picture here because I dressed up as a clown, an evil clown, for a short film that I did called The Call of Cutlass. So I am not a stranger to this territory. I am someone that my first exposure to clowns in general was the episode 5 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which involves an evil clown, and of course the Joker. Even way back then, with the Batman the Animated Series and all that. So I mean, I've always kind of assumed clowns to be evil when I was a child. And it was one of those things. I wasn't ever like afraid of clowns, but I didn't really want to be around them either. It was more like, ew, get it away. But it wasn't like a fear. It was just more like, yeah, I'd rather not. And then upon growing up and getting into the horror world and everything, it's like, ooh, evil clowns. That's an easy way to unnerve people. I'll jump on that. And I really loved the feeling of wearing the makeup and everything. So I mean, I loved it much more than I thought I would. So it was more like second skin and everything. It was awesome. So you can definitely say I have a vested interest in anything clown related now. Plus, the particular clown that I played, it was also in a found footage movie. Now, mine was a live stream, an emulated live stream. This, like Dustin said, was more of footage. It's more like what found footage has kind of become in the popular consciousness. Not so much found, but more assembled from different existing video sources, whether it's from body cams, whether it's from people recording on their phones, security cameras, all that stuff. and trying to give off the illusion that it's in real time, all that stuff. And that can work sometimes. Sometimes it can really stretch credibility. And I think this one, for the most part, it worked. But I think on the whole, I dug this movie quite a bit, and largely it was because I honestly liked the fact that Gags the Clown himself and the clownishness about it. I liked that it, in a lot of ways, it was kind of in the background, and that it was more so about the people that are following the whole craziness of it all and what it says about the different facets of society. Because you've got your teenage pranksters, you've got your police, you've got your kind of fame-hungry news people, you've got your vlogger slash podcaster who
You have your
also
punk
happens to
kids.
be punk kids. Who also happens to be a kind of a gun nut and all that stuff. And so it's like, but it's just the ways in which this phenomenon, which again back in 2016, I was following the whole killer clown sightings, very closely, and because everybody was expecting, oh, it's gonna culminate in a big purge-like event that never happened. It was mostly a lot of just unrelated events that the media kind of spun into, oh, what if they're connected? And it really, they weren't connected at all. Um, but I do remember
Some
that
of
whole thing very.
connected. I think some of those were connected with this particular film.
Yeah, it was probably, and then some of them were connected in as much as that it became a trend. I think the killer
Yeah,
clown thing,
and
as
that's
the
perfectly fair.
phenomena it was presented as, was just part of like viral prank culture
But
that
it
got the
wasn't like a
spotlight for a minute.
coordinated like conspiracy or like an
No,
attack or anything, and that's more the point I was trying to get at. Yeah, people
right.
probably
And people
imitated
are
each
still
other.
doing it with like ring cams and shit. It shows up on TikTok sometimes, just no one gives a
Well,
shit anymore because its
Well,
time
but
has passed.
also
I
at the same time in the independent stratosphere, another killer clown film was kind of making its rounds called Terrifier,
oh yeah,
which
Terrifier was
Yep.
great.
which
Yeah.
which I think is somewhat this film kind of builds off of that kind of clown. You know what I mean? Kind of like that. Not
Although
necessarily
Art the
through
Clown
killer.
was more
Well,
like a killer human, whereas this
Yeah,
Gags is meant to be more of a supernatural entity. At least that's what we gather. Honestly, again, one of the things I liked about this film was the fact that we can infer a lot of things about Gags the Clown, but most of what constitutes the clownishness of it, most of it's kind of in the background, and we find out as much as the characters know. And again, we can reasonably infer much of the mythology based on what we're shown, but it's more so about what the sighting of a clown in this particular time and place, what that does to all these different facets of society. And I love that whenever a movie, let alone a horror movie, can illustrate what a singular event does to multiple groups of people. And by far and away, the most entertaining and the most interesting character I thought was the podcaster, just because, for whatever reason, the idea of, gun nut podcaster versus evil clown, that just kind of tickled my funny bone. And I was like, I would love to
Yeah,
see a whole movie just about that, because I
yeah, I
think
will
that
say
could
I
be
did like
really,
that as well.
that could be really entertaining. And especially, like, if anything, like that character, like now he did look more like what a real person in that position would look like, but like the movie in my head, that would be just, gun nut versus clown. Like that whole movie in my head, like I could imagine him looking like, like imagine like Joe Exotic versus like a evil
Yes,
clown, like something,
right now I need it.
something like that. Not quite Joe Exotic because he's kind of his own special breed of animal, but like, somebody like that, like a super like redneck with like American flag shirt, like super gaudy, maybe a bunch of rhinestones, a truck that's like the suspension's all jacked up. He's got, shotguns upon shotguns. It's like that versus an evil clown. Like I would love to see that movie. That would be great. But like just as it is, I liked seeing all these different pockets of society and what all they do in response to this phenomenon that they don't even fully understand, and we don't even fully understand, and that's part of the point of it. But I do think, as far as found footage movies go, it's not the best, but it's solid for what it tries to be. I did really like the first person video game aspects of the body cams on the police. I thought that turned out really
It was
nicely.
done really well.
Yeah,
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it looked
I kind of
fantastic.
want to see him do like a first-person shooter movie kind
Oh
of thing.
yeah.
You know?
Well, they did Hardcore Henry, but like I like that it gave me between
Right. But
between that and between the security cameras, just some of the angles they used, it totally gave off like a Resident Evil kind of vibe,
yeah,
which I really liked. I do think that, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but like as I said in the chat, like they did some things that I think are very not advisable in a found footage movie. Like for example, you put in ambient music into the film when it's not there in the scene. And that also is confusing because sometimes music is in the scene, but because they used ambient noise and stuff that we, the audience, can hear, but the characters presumably can't hear, that kind of muddies it. And it's like, well, then it's not really naturalistic, is it? Because I'm a big fan of found footage when you do it right, because I think when you do it right, you can really get a level of naturalistic acting or of immediacy that you can't get in most narrative films. But when you do it wrong or do it improperly, then some things can kind of shatter the illusion a bit, or they can just come off as like you're trying to be overly conventional within this technique that is meant to shatter conventions. And some of it,
there's times that definitely felt like you were just watching a scene in a movie and not
yeah.
found footage. You know.
And some of that, I will say again, I know for practicality reasons why they do the security cameras and stuff, because they want to get other angles just so that way they can cover a scene and that way they have something to cut back to and they're not all reliant on one single camera, all that kind of stuff. I get all that, but I will admit that, like, as much as I loved a movie like, say, Chronicle, that whole climactic scene where they're up in the air and you see all the different camera angles with the cell phone cameras, I was like, okay, that's a bit that was probably the biggest stretch of logic that I've seen of that kind of thing. Like you want to cover a scene, but you have to like put the cameras physically there. This wasn't nearly that egregious, but there were definitely some things that you're like, okay, well then who grabbed that footage and who cut it together to make what we're seeing now, But on the whole, honestly, I thought it did a lot of stuff that I thought was pretty cool, and particularly the fact that it was less about Gags the Clown himself and more so about how he affects the people around him and the city that he happens to be in.
I tend to like the fact about this film that we kind of get as far as from the viewpoint of the two officers that are evidently beat cops that are evidently like going through each of the sightings and like checking them out and whatnot. I kind of got like a Law and Order kind of a feel as far as.
Did we get your first impressions, Dave? Is Forrest here also for his, or
not entirely? I suppose I can go into them. As I said in the beginning, I saw the short film at its initial screening, its first festival appearance, and I liked it. I liked the short film. It was a weird take on the clown phenomena, and hearing how it got marketed, it amazed me even more so. So when I saw that this film was being funded to become a feature, I was excited. I was looking forward to seeing what they could do, where they were going to take it, and where they took it, I thought was interesting. I mean, I guess I've never seen a phenomena of clown sightings this way before. or at least played out in this kind of a way. Because in the first, and this is the plot basically. You get news reports. You get sightings of this so-called Gags the Clown, and then of course you get the aftermath with the pranksters, and ultimately you get the media aspect of it with the podcaster, where he just basically kind of does a ghost adventures thing and says, "Okay, I'm gonna go and hunt this bastard down and kill him." As if he's like sighting a Bigfoot or something like that,
Well, and he turns out to be full of shit because he never killed anybody in the wars, and that kind. He tries to blame his cameraman and all that kind of stuff. Now there are definitely some things like I felt like that. Some of the characterizations were a bit, rushed for the sake of trying to have a twist at the end or whatever. But I do think that just that character versus an evil clown, I thought was ripe with possibilities, and what was there was like you could totally buy that somebody like that, if not a whole group of people, wouldn't get together and say we gonna kill ourselves a clown, and maybe not quite that way, but like you could totally believe it, and because inevitably you're gonna have, whenever there's like a terrorizing force or group or whatever, inevitably you're gonna have those wannabe vigilantes that go and try to do what the police can't and try to be a hero and all that stuff. And usually whenever they do that, they do try to do it in groups as opposed to like lone wolfing it like this guy. But then again, he is kind of a showboater because he's trying to get the view count up on the podcast and all that. But like, I do think that this does cover psychologically a lot of what different groups of people go through whenever there's something like this that goes on in a particular place. I have to say the newscasting, certainly more towards the beginning, like just the graphics and the way that people talk and stuff like that was actually one of the more realistic sounding and looking news sections that I've seen, certainly in an independent film. It
was fairly well done.
Yeah, the overall look of the ticker tape at the bottom and the logo of the local news thing, and exactly, and the way she spoke and everything all seem to match. It's different when they're not live or whatever, but it's like, I thought that was actually done pretty darn effectively.
They even snuck in a reference to Dave's favorite clown movie in there. That one dude talked about like, oh, what are they afraid of? Killer clowns from outer space.
Yeah. I like that
did
too.
Did we get Forrest's first impressions?
No, I didn't get to go. No, I didn't go yet.
Nope.
Oh.
Forrest, what was your first impression of this film?
Well, this is also my first. Well, this was actually my first time watching it as well. I had never even heard of this movie until we were suggesting titles to cover this month. And I didn't get around to watching it. Unfortunately, I didn't get around to watching the short film before tonight. But so basically my knowledge. So I'll first say I am generally not a fan of found footage. But I really actually thought this really came out really well. I think it had really good production value, for a small locally produced independent horror film. So basically my knowledge of Green Bay is pretty much limited to the Packers.
Yeah.
Cheeseheads.
Yep. And so this is definitely a side of Green Bay that, like, for me, this is like really like a side to Green Bay that I've never seen outside of the confines of Lambeau Field. And I really like how the Adam Krause really he really adds there's a lot of atmosphere to this. Like you really feel like Green Bay, this small town is like really a dangerous place after dark.
I will give it that. Yeah, it had some cool vibes to it. I mean, there's elements of it I liked. I feel like it came across harsher than what I meant. I did not enjoy the movie overall. But I also kind of said there was parts of it that were too good for the type of like the cop body cam shit. That was rad, you know.
I did,
it felt
and
like too well done, you know.
And granted, yeah, there are a lot of idiotic there are a lot of like dumb idiotic, a lot of idiotic characters in this movie. But well, except the podcaster, I found the podcaster. Yeah, she was actually probably the most interesting one. But a lot of the characters are either annoying or stupid. But still, like there's this clown around that's going around the town. And but like it's not like your typical killer clown. I found it's not your typical killer clown movie, which is what I thought I was going to be watching. But it's like his presence is just adding to this paranoia for everyone.
He's almost like Pennywise.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's all kind of in the background though, which is I thought was pretty smart because you were able to just see what Gags the Clown does through his behavior, and so you could tell, oh, there's something in the balloons that makes people turn into his disciples in a way, and that he's clearly supernatural, but we only know as much as the characters know. Yeah. And I thought that was pretty effective. Because there's something to be said for, the part of the mystery of it is that we know only as much as the characters know.
I liked the whole thing. Now, I don't see it often. I cannot say that they were the first to put this trait forward about this kind of clown curse, where they're kind of cursed to become kind of killer clowns themselves. But because I've seen it before, I want to say, was it Stitches? It was a clown movie. I can't remember what it was.
It might have been Stitches.
That's a good one.
Where somebody's infected with a curse.
Or maybe that movie Clown. Is that the one with
another great
the coin?
That was a good one.
Yeah.
It was a person of color that was the main character in it, and I can't think of it. But
Killjoy?
I know that. No.
Okay, because that should never be mentioned.
But I'm a fan of the Killjoy series, but for a different reason.
I like them after the first two.
But as far as this goes, I do like that concept. I think it was pretty cool, adding kind of almost a zombie plague aspect. So you have this kind of weird, crazy disease going around, spread by this powder in the balloons. I think it was like a liquid in the short film.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he coughed up the same slime instead of blood, which I thought was a rad touch. It was like, oh, this powder like wrecked this dude's insides, you know.
Yeah, that was
good. I thought it was a cool aspect, and the way that they had it at the end. And I'm not going to give away a lot of the ending, but the way that they had it come together at the end with these cursed people, I thought it wrapped up very well. And when we get to the end, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I just wanted to throw out that I thought the clown curse thing was pretty cool.
And we actually did get to see some early planting and payoff with the how the thing works, because you notice that so the opening scene there with the people in the car, you have the one guy who's got the kind of pale face, and if I recall, he's not doing too well, and they're trying to get him away from the scene, and they encounter Gags, and it's in a parking deck, and we all know that parking decks in movies are death traps, especially in action movies. But
or Candyman.
Yeah, too.
And there's a scene later with the police where you've got somebody who had locked themselves in a room after being exposed, which was pretty cool as well with the body cam footage. So some pretty awesome stuff there.
I do want to say something as far as to the main actress who plays the newspaper reporter. This was not her first role for the long shot. She was in a movie called The Woman, which was based on Jack Ketchum's novel of that.
Lucky
and,
McKee's the woman?
She was, yeah, I believe so. So she played a woman called Peggy Cleek in the film, and she also in a movie called Jugface, which is an independent film that I know of. As Ada.
Jugface is fucking awesome. It's unsettling and greasy as hell, but it is worth watching for sure.
A movie, independent movie called Pod as Lila, the main chick in it. And she also was in a
pretty badass
movie that was in black and white, kind of an action thriller drama called Darling, which was in 2015. So these are some of the film credits that she's had, and you know, I've heard of them. So
I wish I recognized her from Pod and Jugface, because those are both, like, I highly recommend those. Those were like top of the list when I went through their respective years of like horror movies or whatever. There was a time I would try to stay updated on that, guys.
And I really liked. You see, I admit there were a couple of parts with the reporter that I did not like, but for the most part, I did like the character overall. I didn't mind her for the most part. There's only like one part where she was talking with that antique show guy later on that I didn't like her.
Oh,
but
yeah, I love whenever he calls her a pixie whore.
I like the comment that the antiques dealer gave to her, you cocksucker or something like that.
I really did enjoy. I thought she was a great character. Otherwise, it was one of the characters I did feel. I mean, the podcaster I was more amused by than anything else, because normally I don't like people like that. But
I don't like people like that in real life. But I
Either.
think in this movie,
well,
he not only had a lot of charisma and energy, but I've just, again, the movie in my head, I was like, imagine like the most like uber patriotic gun nut you can think of versus a killer supernatural clown. That would be a fucking awesome movie, and I still want to see it.
Maybe in the finale he like fights the clown with the trolling motor off his bass boat. That'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, or like has one shotgun in each hand and can shoot them both at the same time while he's wearing like an American flag shirt. You know, I don't know what, that amuses me.
So the basic plot of this film is basically that there is this guy that's going around dressing up like this clown. And at this moment, in the very beginning of this film, he hasn't really done much. All he's done is just freaked out a few people, no. But as the film progresses, ultimately, like there's this one where the mother calls the police, and the policeman comes up and he's like, he comes in. I think the young girl's name was Elizabeth, and he basically is there to see if she's okay, and she won't come out of the room, and then suddenly she comes out, and she's like, the camera kind of goes down, and you think that something happens there,
Yeah.
So. Other than that, you got several other factions that are going on. You've got the main newspaper reporter or lady and her boom cameraman, Dale, I think his name was.
I believe so.
And so, what do you guys think of these two characters?
I really liked the cameraman. I liked that part because I fully support his logic when he's like, okay, but if you're a crackhead and they have the initiative to like build a costume, I like how he says build a costume. But his whole point is sound. It's like at least they're out there doing something productive with it.
Exactly.
If you've chosen the route and you're crackheaddom to create a character and run with it and become a local legend, I'm kind of good with that.
They had good chemistry, and I liked the actress who was the reporter. I thought she did a good job. I think they make a lot of remarks about how pretty she is or whatever, which I thought she to me she looked like, news reporter kind of the way that someone would look. I didn't think she looked like, Courtney Cox in Scream or anything like that, but like,
She's
she
cute in that mousy kind of way,
yeah, well, I think acting
Yeah.
wise, she really had it down, and I like that she was kind of our. I mean, she was in a similar vein to like Gale Weathers from Scream. Similar like Lois Lane, but like the bad kind of toxic version of that. Um, and someone that wants to push around her cameraman and that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I think she just did it well. It's an archetype we've seen many times before. There are a lot of archetypes in this, but I think she did it well. I think the archetypes themselves were all done pretty well. The only ones I thought were kind of weak were the rambunctious teenagers. I thought we've seen 10 billion of those in not just slasher films, but in horror films in general. That you have to really stand out in if you're going to fit that archetype, and I don't think they really did. I did think that the other ones they did a little bit more to stand out, but on the whole, the archetypes were handled fairly well.
I like how that one girl that was like her stepmom was the police officer or whatever. She looked like she was a solid like 10 years older than the lady that was supposed to be her. I get that they make the comment about the dad liking them young, but those girls' roles, I feel like they should have been reversed. Because the bigger girl would have made more sense as the cop, and the little brunette chick would have made more sense as the teenager.
I'm not sure I thought she looked older by any means, but I know what you mean. Like she was a bigger, like she seemed more she seemed more cop-like, more imposing in
the
a
very
lot of
least,
ways.
yeah, she made more sense as the cop,
And I'll admit the casting in this parts of it were kind of strange, and that was one that I did think about. I kind of got over it pretty quickly, but I did think about that. But I personally thought that the news reporter was a little off. I couldn't put my finger on it. I don't want to say she was too young or anything, because it's not exactly it. It's just something seemed off. I can't place it. But yeah, I did like the overall vibe between her and the cameraman. There was a little bit of that Gale Weathers and all the cameramen that she had. There was a little bit of that vibe there.
I like that coffee discussion.
Right.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
They put cream in my coffee.
I know.
What? Want to go back for it?
We got to go back.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, Gags has been spotted over by wherever. It's like, okay, well, first let's go get the coffee. It's like, what are you doing? No.
Well, and of course they stopped by a drive-in thing a little bit before. Well, that was where he got the coffee. I think, kind of, wasn't it? But
they had a fun dynamic.
Yeah, they definitely had an interesting combination, and ultimately,
in the extras, they had some additional like ad-libbing and riffing that they did with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
like those actually are the ones, them and maybe that podcast guy feel like the ones that I would think had the most ad-libbed stuff, because they felt a little more natural than some of the other people in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more seasoned.
So I could buy that some of it was, probably. I'd like to see those extras.
But
right.
Ultimately,
I didn't hate the movie, guys. I mean, like, just because I didn't enjoy it overall does not mean that I hated it. It was a movie, and I watched it. I'm glad I did, so I could be here with you, fine folks.
Well, nothing accusatory.
Well, and again, I kind of was in a similar position for Sleepaway Camp, so it's good to get those outliers.
Well, and ultimately, we have another faction, a little group, the punk kids, who is evidently Sarah is a relation to the cop character that plays a woman, and they evidently have a party where they are evidently Sarah's boyfriend is dressing up like Gags the Clown and trying to scare people at the party, and then they decide to take it elsewhere, off to the street. Okay, let's go downtown.
Take the show on the road.
Look, this fairgrounds, this fair that's happened. Let's go there. And I like how snippets of that was like integrated. And you get a moment where she actually appears to see Gags or someone show up like a clown, and I like that moment where he just shows up with cotton candy in his fucking hand.
Which
what are you doing?
Who? So it was Forrest and Mo. I assume you don't really like found footage also, is that correct, or am I wrong?
Oh, no, I enjoy them. I mean, like, it just depends. It has to be something that I maybe have, like, some interest in. So, like, Quarantine or Cloverfield are good example of ones that I really enjoy.
Evil Things is a good one.
I ask because it does kind of fill my larger question, which is that, so I have felt similarly as far as, like, I don't necessarily think of like slasher films as like the end all be all of horror, even though there are plenty of good ones out there. It's not my favorite subgenre, but for a lot of people, that's like their life. It's their idea of what horror is, and so therefore, and what we know the slasher film to be was largely a 70s and especially 80s, subgenre. So what that leads me to wonder is if will found footage eventually kind of be looked back on in the same kind of way with reverence?
I already look at it that way. Early 2000s.
I think it's already appreciated.
To be honest, a lot of these slasher films used a viewpoint from the killer's point of view. So, and that's
there's probably some connect there in certain ways.
And keep in mind that the slasher subgenre and the found footage subgenre, there are plenty of good ones in both modes, in both techniques. They have plenty of good ones, and yet they're still, as a genre, as a technique, they're not necessarily fully respected in the way that they should be, and it just takes some time to get there.
Is a product of, because they followed a similar trajectory too, if you think about it.
Yeah,
they were kind of like dime a dozen type things, where just everyone was doing them. It was a successful gimmick, so they just got cranked out for a while, and a lot of them are shit, bro. Like slasher movies. A lot of them are, yes, there's great ones, but probably the vast majority of them are kind of ass. There's a reason why like slashers are my go-to like beer and popcorn nonsense, because it's just like, well, it's either going to be good or it's going to be ass and I can laugh at it,
Yeah, and that's why I bring it up though, because like there's this one YouTube channel called Horror is Dead, which is if you ever want to see like a massive bitch fest in every film that person has uploaded, it's Horror is Dead. And one of them was all about how much he hates found footage, but he's someone that, for him, slasher films from a very specific era, like that is horror and that's it, which again, I don't think either one is true. And it's more so that I tend to find that there's like, people that grew up with whatever their concept of horror is, then anything outside of that, gets discounted. I don't think that's right.
And that's a big part of it is is what your concept of horror is and what affects you. If you go into it, I guess also everyone has their own particular things they are looking for from it. But like, let's say you go into horror looking to be scared, or you're looking to be thrilled, or you're looking to hear.
Whenever I go,
what?
To be bothered.
Okay. See, I'm kind of like that too. Like, there are certain things I don't want to be bothered in that way. Period. And those tend to be some of the ones that I shy away from. especially like physical grotesqueries and certain, certain other things. But one thing that I find personally affects me, I do not scare easily. And so films that try to quote unquote scare you usually fall on their face with me. And so I tend to think of them as kind of stupid and silly. But like, I can be creeped out. And I like films that effectively do that. And one thing that kind of creeps me out is people violating other people's space. And that can include standing and looking at you with a creepy ass costume on. So, in a sense, I do feel that this film kind of falls into that category to a degree. It doesn't creep me out on nearly the same level. We mentioned earlier 1 Hour Photo, not nearly on the same level or as effectively, but it's kind of that same vibe in a way, the same vibe that did actually work. I was one of the people that Paranormal Activity worked for, so there are movies like that not everyone will get them, but for me, I'm like, okay, this one, yeah, there's some genuine creepiness to what this dude is doing. And
Yeah,
so, I like it.
Ultimately, after the fairgrounds,
Mhm.
we get that group of pranksters. Well, one unwilling prankster, because Sarah, as the film progresses, she wants nothing to do with what it is they're doing. They ultimately find out that the podcaster from Right Stuff is going to be in that abandoned building, and they basically say, "Hey, let's go prank that dude." I mean, he's just going and doing it for the money anyway. Ways, why not pull the ultimate prank?
And the other one sagely tells him, "You're an idiot. You're going to get shot."
Yeah, I like that. I
Mhm.
thought that was a good touch. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, you're totally gonna get killed."
Right.
Well,
But
and also we have the cops.
well, you also don't want to gloss over the fact that one of them has already had a balloon popped on him. He's retching blood.
Yeah.
He's in a very bad shape, and she is pleading, "Let's take him to the hospital." And the other one is being a total douchebag about it,
Yeah.
going,
He's
"No,
very selfish.
yeah,
He's
Oh, yeah.
fine.
yeah,
And well, the other guy's like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good."
yeah,
But,
yeah."
I mean, they're doing stupid stuff like, "Ooh, look, it's a Gags balloon. I
Mhm.
take a picture with it," and then
Mhm.
he gets coated with the stuff.
Mhm.
One thing that also occurred about the possession with the police was at the restaurant where they came upon another one of the Gags infected. They
Mhm.
shoot the guy and he gets back up like a freaking zombie, and
Mhm.
you hear the carnival music play. And I really liked the use of the carnival music in the few times that they utilize it, because it's not a music that's in the background like, typical background. I mean, this is music that they're hearing and they're like, where the heck is that coming from? Because you get to hear it a couple of times. You get to hear it, one, with the confrontation with the police at that restaurant. Two, you get to hear it when you get the vlogcaster or what, the podcaster with his confrontation with Gags at the railroad tracks,
Mhm.
and you hear it at the end. And I feel like they did a good job of having you associate that music with, oh, that ain't good.
I like
Well,
to
no.
think that they're physically emitting it from somewhere, and I'll just leave it at that. That's
Mhm.
Well, and ultimately, the reveal is that apparently there is an underground society of people who have been turned into these clowns that apparently are they're kind of like scarecrowed into this kind of zombie-like
Mhm.
existence. for Gags the Clown. And I think that this whole, like, ending where everyone kind of shows up in the same tent in the same place is kind of cool. I don't know about you.
I like that whole climax too, and the mythology of it didn't have to go into too much detail, largely because it was so heavily visual that we could infer most of it. And I thought to me, that was good storytelling because you could, flesh out a whole big mythology for this thing, but, we were able to just see it through its behavior, what it's all about. And I think that was well done, and also just it was not terribly large budgeted, and yet they made it look like it was much bigger budgeted than it actually was. And again, that's smart. That's really well done.
It did look really good. I will say that. Like, despite my enjoyment level of it, the movie looked dang good. It was. It was a well put together little found footage flick.
A lot more bang for its buck, I think.
I really enjoyed at the end where you had the confrontation between where they go into the little circus tent that is like right set up, and they've got the thing set up, where all of the people who are turned are sitting there waiting for Gags to perform, and they all do that slow turn, and you're just thinking, oh, they're all fucked.
Well, and it's not the first time they've done like a clown curse spreading type thing, but the idea of like it being like this clown disease this dude's spreading around to people, kind of like a zombie thing, is pretty neat.
Yeah,
I will give it that.
I like that, and I like the fact that it's transmitted through the balloons. I think that's that's a really well done thing. And I also like the final shot, the final effects bit. That was because I kind of, in my mind, I was like, are they going to go where I think they're going to go with like her holding up a balloon of herself? And they did. And I was like, oh, that actually turned out pretty well as an effect.
I like how they did.
I kind of wondered how that was going to turn out. And it turned out pretty well. It didn't look like it was overly expensive either.
It really blew her mind, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
think it's just, I would have enjoyed. Go ahead, Dustin. What's up?
I wasn't expecting that ending. I was like, oh, she's the survivor, but she's insane now. Okay. Boom. Oh.
I totally called it. Well, I totally called it before it happened, but I was glad that it did, because I was like, I was wondering, like, how are they going to do that effect? Is it going to be really bloody, or is it going to be really like more abstract, which is kind of what they did. Because it looked like she was full of air, which is obviously air or helium. That's what happens when you burst a balloon. So she kind of burst apart in that way, and I was like, hey, that's kind of neat. So I mean, it was more for me. It was more so, how are they going to do it? And again, it didn't look like it cost all that much, and yet it was very effective. And that's kind of the movie in a nutshell. Like they made it look like it was much bigger budgeted than I assumed it necessarily was. And it definitely, as far as regional horror or whatever, like it highlighted a city that does not normally get highlighted in movies.
Right.
And yet it was not so bogged down by its regionalness that somebody in another country couldn't enjoy it. And that's kind of the point I was trying to get across in our Oscars show that we did the other day on the Septum Sin versus the World. You can make stuff that is more localized, more personal, more down to earth in a way, but you can still have it with let it have a lot of appeal to people that aren't in your area. This is another example of that. Or again, like, Kevin Smith doing everything in New Jersey or whatever, like, yeah, it helps, but you can still enjoy it even if you're in another country.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Well, as far as everything, what did we think about the special effects of the film?
I thought they were great. Like, everything in this held up really well. Like, it had kind of a minimalist approach. But which I think really paid off for it, because it
Mhm.
wasn't like a real blood and guts kind of movie. It was more of a cerebral thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the effects fit it perfectly, and things were sufficiently
Mhm.
gross when they needed to be.
And
And
just
the
yeah.
only thing I think that didn't quite hold up was they used an effect to blacken the eyes of the clown zombies. And I could kind of tell that was, they did that in like After Effects or something.
Hmm.
That was my only complaint with the effects.
Okay.
I think for a smaller budget film, this look came across very well, very polished for that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you the truth, I felt it was a much bigger budget film than it was, so
Mm-hmm.
that to me was a good thing.
And
Yeah, I definitely
and
agree with all of that.
on the idea of the visuals, I think we should say I definitely liked the look of Gags himself. That was just
Yes.
he was a creepy ass looking clown, and the black balloons were a great touch. That was the
He looked normal enough that you could buy him
right,
as a clown, but then there
right.
was that silent sinisterness to it.
Yeah, I mean, like he didn't look
Yeah.
like a happy-go-lucky clown by any means. He did look like something that like out of someone's nightmares. But on the other hand, he almost, for the most part, it almost looked like a legit. Someone could have easily put this costume together without too much effort, sort of deal.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
I did like the fact that the news reports looked like news reports.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen independent films where it just doesn't fly that they're doing a newscaster or whatnot.
Maybe cable access news,
Yeah.
Right.
not
So
an
I
actual
think
network.
kudos for whoever was video editing those in. So
Mm-hmm.
other than that, what did y'all think about the music behind the film?
I would rather that the music that was in there was strictly diegetic music, meaning that it's physically there in the scene, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
non-diegetic music that we, the viewers, can hear, but
Right.
the characters can't. I would have preferred if it was all diegetic music, because then it wouldn't have been muddied. Because there are a lot of times where you're like, oh, so the characters can hear that carnival music, but they can't hear the ambient kind of atonal stuff. That's why it's so important in your found footage movie to make sure you establish those rules and you don't break them. Because I do have to knock some points off this movie in a couple areas, and that's one of them. And that's kind of a big one, I'm afraid, because it can really destroy the illusion, and it can really beg you to ask, okay, well, where's that coming from? If this was
Mm-hmm.
indeed found footage and assembled footage,
Mm-hmm.
then did someone put that in there or what? Now, I think they were using it more so as a stylistic thing. I don't think they were really trying to build the world as for like they were and they weren't. Like they were trying to build the world of what everybody in this society would be doing if this really happened. They did that
Mhm.
part of world building really well, but not so much thinking through like, okay, is this footage that's actually assembled, or are we jumping from camera feed to camera feed
Right.
almost like Night Trap style? And I think
Right.
that
Right.
I think they were going for the latter, and it did sort of throw me off because I'm like, well, which is it? Make it clear what you want to do. And I tend to be more of the on the side of, whatever sounds you have, making them set up in the scene, or if you do have music that's after the fact, then give it a reason for why it's there. Because like I did a found footage film, Cooking with Human Blood. I did that where there was some non-diegetic music, but it was set up in the film as to why it was there, because this was a video that was found on the dark web, and there's some possibilities that it was a hoax and, that it was meant to look, like it was real when it really was and all that stuff. So there's still a reason as to why it would be there. Whereas here, you're like, okay, did someone intentionally put in this weirdo ambient sound to make it extra spooky? And if they didn't, then why is it there? All that stuff. Those are all important details that unfortunately, I don't think that they necessarily thought through that would have helped to sell the world even more.
Okay.
I will say to that point that the stuff that they did do, even if it didn't fit, was decently well done. Like, if this wasn't supposed to be a found footage movie, the way, like, some of the beats that they hit with the score were pretty cool. Like, it added to it. It was decently done. Even if they used it improperly sometimes, like you've explained,
I will say that the music was done by Nicholas Ellert, and I guess he did the music behind the movie Deadweight, which I had mentioned before, and John Pada's Pity Short. So I think Head Trauma Productions brought that music composer to this film, and that's how we kind of got that there. But I thought it was kind of funny how you mentioned a stylistic. Evidently, he did the music for a short film called The Stylist, and later in 2020, a movie called The Stylist.
How about that?
Right.
So, that being as said, let's talk about favorite scenes for everyone. I'm going to go with the whole reveal of the people in the tent and the whole atmosphere following that. I just enjoyed the look of the zombie-like people and the creepiness that they were all just waiting for Gags the Clown or whatever message that he might be relaying to them, even telepathically. Yeah, as it were.
I think I liked the initial news reporting just because of its authentic look and feel, and just some of the Vox Populi bits with the people on the street. I think that was done authentically. I like that, and then I also like some of the initial podcast footage because, again, I liked one of my favorite things. Any comic book fans will remember this in Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, which was done very effectively, and in other things since then. I think Watchmen did it too, but like whenever you have any kind of extraordinary or supernatural or whatever, something out of the ordinary, whenever you have that in your story and you want to try to ground it, it's always great whenever you have those news story kind of talking head segments and they're interesting and they're not just boring, which in this case they did have some life, some energy. They had different groups of people, different kinds of people offering different insights and stuff. You even saw that in like the first Spider-Man film. You saw a lot of people having different perspectives on this new person in New York City, which was lifted right out of the comics, and that was even older than The Dark Knight Returns and all that stuff. But in this case, you had that same kind of idea, and that really helps to ground your otherwise unbelievable story. It helps ground it in some form of reality, or at least the reality that you're trying to create and present. And it helps flesh out the world. It helps flesh out the rules of your world, all that stuff. That was done very effectively, and particularly because it illuminates two of the more interesting characters in this ensemble piece.
Right.
Alrighty. Dustin. Go ahead, Jake.
Well, I was just going to work. Oh, go ahead.
No, what were you going to say, Jake?
Well, I was just going to kind of head off of what Dane was saying, because I kind of agree that a lot of the early news stuff was some of my favorite parts, and particularly the podcaster stuff. And if I were to cite two particular moments, one of them was the part where he's talking about his guns and they're all named and he's describing what they do
Abigail.
for him. Yeah. And then also, but this kind of fits in a little bit to what I think what Dan was saying a little bit, but I liked how they showed the view counters on all of his podcast stuff.
And that
like
looked great.
And
That
like
looked like it was really there. You know?
Oh yeah. But like the moment when the music starts and the clown vanishes and he missed his shot, you see the views plummet. And it just kind of it's just that little moment. I'm like, that's a nice little bit of commentary there on where people's minds are really at. You know? Yeah.
But
Hey, what about you, Dustin?
anyway, I think my favorite part is kind of the entirety of the finale when they're wandering around that abandoned building, looking for the clown, and they finally find him, and oof, that was a creepy scene. Like it takes a lot to get to me, and that finale did it. Plus, like the anticipation of what are they gonna find in there, and then the jerk in the clown costume, he gets shot. I felt kind of bad for him, but at the same time, he was a jerk. So
Right.
I know this was a tough movie. This was a tough movie to evaluate for me, just because it had kind of a lot going on, and again, it wasn't what I was expecting either. So I had a pretty good experience with this, and I think that's why the last half hour is probably my favorite scene.
Right.
What about you, Mo? Favorite scenes?
The movie Dustin probably imagined in his head going into this. But outside of that, I did enjoy several things in this movie. Especially like whenever they put that kitty litter on that dude that's passed out at the party. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I really like when that like antique dealer guy's walking away and he's all pissed at the reporter and he's like grumbling some shit. And at the end, I think he says something like, "Damn pixie whore." Like, I just could not stop fucking laughing at that.
And then she calls him an Ed Gein-like character later on. That was priceless.
He was kind of geeny. But I think, I would agree the finale's rad and would probably be my overall favorite like chunk of the movie. But anything prior to that, I think I just really liked the change from the short film of the dude coughing up the blood at the beginning, instead of it just being like some Nickelodeon gag or whatever he spit up in the short film. Because it just, the idea of like inhaling shit and it ripping you up so bad that you cough blood, like I get that it was more supernaturally than that, but the idea of that bugs me out. So like when I saw that they changed that was something that immediately like leapt right out and slapped me in the face, Good stuff. I think it's just I would have enjoyed the movie more if either all of the characters were playing sort of different people, or if it was the general concept wrapped around like a proper splatter movie. That being said, though, I think we've covered it fairly well. That I do still think that this is a good example of a found footage movie. And that viral marketing campaign sounds awesome, man. So as a local thing, I mean, for sure, be proud of this. It's dope. They did a good job for what it is with what they had, and that's admirable.
Okay.
Going
over to you.
So to me, of course, the ending. But since everybody has spoken about the ending, I'm going to throw out another one. I really did like the scene at the restaurant where they're confronting the person who was kind of more recently zombified. I just thought that was really creepy. I thought they handled it well. And it was just in general great. I enjoyed this movie overall.
We got to come up with a word for that. What I mean, it's like they're clown zombies. Clombies. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I don't know. Like I say, I enjoyed this overall, but I can definitely see what's up with people who have not. Like I say, my wife would not have wanted to watch this movie. Probably would not enjoy this movie just simply for the clown thing.
I will say though too, like even though it's kind of built around or maybe possibly started some of that creepy clown like trend for a bit, they do a well enough job of like building that up inside of the movie that it's not. I don't think it's going to be like dated if someone watches it like 20 years from now or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just think like, oh, this is a circumstance in this movie, even if they've forgotten like the viral media craze that was going on around that for a bit. Because if they had half-assed that part of it, the whole building up this world where this clown phenomenon is happening, it very easily could have felt like you wouldn't have known what the fuck they were really talking about if you didn't remember that clown craze, So they did that really well as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add about this film?
No.
I think as far as clown movies go, this is a pretty good one, and I don't think it's a perfect film, and certainly not a perfect found footage film because of some of the reasons I mentioned. But I think it does offer a lot more bang for the buck relative to what they made it for. It helps to show off what Green Bay, Wisconsin is all about. It helps to elevate the found footage and the clown genres kind of together. It may be your cup of tea, it may not, but I think it's well worth at least one watch. Particularly particularly because of some of the neat things that they do with the form. And again, I'm a little biased because I do like found footage and I really love evil clowns, and you put them together and it's like, oh, you got something.
And also, just randomly throw out there, I guess, as far as the theme for the month of like the local horror and whatever, this one probably, I don't know, I guess maybe this one, Candyman and Just Before Dawn, might be the winners as far as actually being like clearly local, like clearly local to the area, to the, they did a really good job of like, this is, you're here, and and giving people a feel for that vibe, I think. And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been there.
Right.
Maybe like going through with my dad trucking, but I don't recall ever stopping off in Cheesetown or whatever. But it felt like it showcased a lot of whatever city it was in. So yeah.
And put Green Bay on the map as far as horror films go.
They made me think of something about Green Bay other than football.
Maybe they can have a decent killer.
I liked how on the back of the Blu-ray it says, in a small town in Wisconsin, when Green Bay is like the third largest city in Wisconsin.
Certainly one of the best.
They have a fucking NFL team. I don't know how many small towns.
Alrighty. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that concludes our discussion on Gags the Clown. But definitely don't take our word for it. Go out and see the film yourself. I'm sure you can. Right now, it's streaming on Amazon Prime for free for those of you who have Amazon Prime. But you can pick up the film for relatively $15 to $20, give or take, and it's to me not a bad watch. And I like that it's kind of local. So.
I'm glad I have it.
Yeah, I think we all liked it to some extent or another.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, I'm certainly not bummed that I watched it. I'm not in love with it. I couldn't even say that I liked it, but I did really, really, really like some things about it. I'd love to see like the way they did that first-person body cam shit in like, I don't know, a Turok movie or something like that would be really cool. So it's got its highlights for sure.
I have Hardcore Henry in my collection, but I still haven't watched it yet. And I specifically got it because I was really curious to see what a fully first-person film would be like, because I still don't see that really being done, and I would like it to be done because I think that would advance the film medium forward. Be a pretty neat thing to see.
Well, and I think that Mo here has some informational stuff.
I do.
Wisconsin.
We got the tail of the tape here for your guys' little the cheese state over there. We got a little excerpt here from the Regional Horror Guide by Brian Albright, Regional Horror Films, 1958 to 1990, state-by-state guide with interviews. Our first movie in here is The Alpha Incident by Bill Redbane. Pretty sure, or Bill Rebane. I don't know how you say
Bill
that.
Rebane.
I'm pretty sure I have that on multi-pack.
Rebane.
There you go. We got Blood Beat from 1985, which looks friggin' awesome. Recently saw the trailer for that. We got another Bill Rebane movie, is Blood Harvest, aka Nightmare, from 1987. We got Blood Hook, also from 1987, directed by Jim Mallon. We got Bog from 1983, directed by Don Kiesler. The Capture of Bigfoot, also Bill Rebane, and that's from 1979. We got The Demons of Ludlow from 83, also old Billy Boy right there. And another, Bill flick, The Game from 84. Apparently he's prolific. We also have The Giant Spider Invasion from 1975, Invasion from Inner Earth from 1974. These are all his movies. And Rana, The Legend of Shadow Lake from 1975.
That's
That
probably
closes
his
her
best
out
movie.
there for. I'm gonna definitely be checking some of those out because their descriptions and titles sound awesome.
Did you say you said Giant Spider Invasion, right?
I did.
Okay, because that one's like really famous for some reason. Like
That might be the only one I've seen potentially because the name sounds familiar and that title for sure leapt out at me as far as like feeling familiar,
Yeah, and Dustin and I actually interviewed Bill Rebane. So if you get a chance on Inside Movies Galore podcast, check out that interview. I was recently able to piece that together from way back when, not too long ago. So definitely, please do.
Is that one that you had me try to edit once?
Yeah. And then
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that
didn't we
might be
talk to him
actually
for, like-
how I know of the dude.
didn't we talk to him for like 4 hours or something crazy?
like 3.5 hours, basically.
There's just some weird audio shift on it that I couldn't figure out at the time, but probably could fix now. It was tricky.
I ended up figuring it out on Audacity. So, ladies and gentlemen, please check it out and have a very good night. Don't clown around too much.